All right. So Eric, so one of the things that's interesting that just came out recently, Ozzfest. Remember good old Ozzfest, man, from the 90s. It's to return in 2027. There's going to be, it looks like right now they have two dates. That's going to be held at Villa Park. That's where they had the Black Sabbath Back to the Beginning concert last summer. And they're supposed to be returning here to the U.S. as well. All right. So and this came from Sharon Osbourne. She did this on Jack Osbourne's podcast. So she said it's a done deal. Now, what's obviously Ozfest was such a huge thing for promoting, not just obviously to have a festival. It used to be a touring festival, is what it was, but didn't have just great bands on there like Pantera and so forth. I mean, you can go down the list of how many great bands played on it, but it was what I loved about it back in the 90s and 2000s was it was sort of the purveyor of what the future of metal was going to be. What were some of the up and coming bands that were going to start taking off and really become the future of metal? And I think that was what was so great about it back in the day. Obviously, we just went over a whole, a couple of discussions here about how shitty it is right now for up and coming metal bands, and they're not getting any, exposure or what have you. And just the future of it's kind of bleak in terms of the younger generation of metal fans and what they can expect and what's happening in their world and their age range and so forth. So what's your take on this? Do you think this is a good thing to return Ozfest, considering too that Ozzy's not with us anymore? Or do you think it's sort of like maybe leave it in the past and not bring it back? What do you think? What's your take on this?
I think it's awesome. Ozzy is a brand. Ozzy instantly means heavy metal. So anything that's good for rock and heavy metal music is good in general. I loved it when there was a touring thing. It was kind of a cultural force.
Yeah.
At the time, also there was Warped Tour. There was a number of touring big festival things.
Tattoo the Earth was another one that was really good.
Yes. And I don't know if it was you guys. I read that guy's book. He had some fun stories.
I did too.
Yeah. Those things are really cool. So if it got to that level, I think that would mean a lot more. Like, dude, here's the deal. Like when it's a one-off like that, I mean, how good is it going to be? Like, I kind of feel like it's going to be a lot of the same old shit. I think it's going to be a lot of the same fucking bands that have played everything. It's going to be another Aftershocks. The Ohio thing, the thing in Kentucky.
Sonic Temple.
So all those that are the same fucking touring lineup, you know what I mean? Because everything that's the safe bet, right? That's what everyone will invest in. And like when you get to that level, I guess maybe that's the only way that you can assure that everyone gets paid, If they did it back in the day, there were record labels, and I'm pretty sure all those up and coming bands were signed and it was pay to play, and they had to pay to be on those stages. And whether it worked or not and how much it cost, ask them. I swear, like numbers. Walls of Jericho was like this like underground, like hardcore
band. Yeah, I remember them.
Detroit. And they're really cool, right? But I believe that they got on that stage somehow, because there was money back then. Whatever label they were on could afford to do that. But I don't think it was like, I think it was like $50K back then, but see, I wasn't part of it. I think it was expensive that back then. I can only imagine what it would be now, because these numbers are just like, who can afford this? That's the thing. It could be great for music. Maybe they will have a stage that's like, just, I don't know, but just cool. Like maybe let's have a stage that all handpicked by Jack. That would be great. Are they going to do that? Or is it going to be like, no, we'll have a side stage, but everyone's going to have to pay $100,000. Who knows?
Of course.
But it doesn't have to be that way. I swear you could also, like in a perfect world, if I was calling the shots, you could have your legend stage that, because that's what's bringing the people there. They're like, oh, we're going to bring Slayer back. We're going to bring Megadeth back. We're going to bring Lamb of God, whatever. The same old shit. Slipknot. We're going to get all those bands, and they're going to play the big stage, and everyone's going to, and there's going to be tons of fucking people paying a shit ton of money. But that's the other thing, too, is that, like, dude, what they need from you, they just need stuff that's cheap. Stuff that, like, doesn't suck and is cheap. Like those festivals and everything in life and everything that was successful was attainable for if you care about, you know, the music or the youth, you know, give back to the youth and all that stuff. You got to have stuff that's cheap, man.
Yeah.
It should be $20. Maybe $50 is the new $20. Maybe that's okay. And then $50, I guess. You know, I still like $50 to me. I'm still like, you know, that's a lot of money, right?
Well, like, right? Yeah.
But
well,
so
still kind of.
I got nothing against like Sharon, like Ozzy Osbourne was more than just Ozzy. He represented a lot. He kind of is, you know, passed away, and his name itself, if you put his name on anything, that means heavy metal.
Yep.
So that's good. That's good for any. As long, here's the deal: you get too corporate, you put his name on something that's not metal, and that's where things go south. But if you're gonna do a metal or hard rock, you know what? He was also debatably barely metal, mostly classic rock. I mean, he spoke a couple times about like he didn't like death metal, he didn't like guttural vocals. He thought
he was a Beatles fan. Yeah,
right. So anyway, he's rock, but like using his name to push the culture, push a heavy metal festival all day long. Fuck yeah, that's a perfect use for his name. That's like
I
really
agree.
cool.
Yeah, I agree. I think, you know, like you said, I think because he's not here doesn't mean we still can't use his name. And you said it's synonymous with metal. When you hear Ozzy, you know right away what it means. It means, you know, rock and roll metal. Exactly. Yeah, and that's my thing is, like I said, I love the fact that they had that second stage with all these younger upcoming bands. I used to almost kind of like that a lot of times, more so than some of the main stage stuff, because I mean I was always into, you know, pushing and discovering new bands. I know not everybody is. So, and I discovered so many bands, I remember, because I'd hear, oh, they're playing the second stage at Ozzfest. I never heard these bands. Let me go check them out. And sometimes they were cool, sometimes not, but a lot of times they were. I discovered a lot of good bands, you know, new bands that way. But you said something I think is very important. Like you said, they've got to make it affordable because of that aspect. Like I said, I think that was one of the best aspects of Ozzfest is they got to make it affordable for the youngsters. There would be no point in doing this if it wasn't going to be. But like you said, what's probably going to happen is, you said, it's probably going to want to be in the same exact thing as you said, as like a Sick New World, or I mean that not as many bands as that, but or like a Sonic Temple or Aftershock, same thing.
They're all the same.
Where,
are they like $300? Like hundreds of dollars to get in?
Well, there's all these different days, but here's a couple of things where I'm going to talk about what she discussed too, Sharon. First, she says, yeah, it was a very weird beast talking about Ozzfest because all the bands were their friends and mates, but the managers were greedy, and for some reason they thought that we were making billions on it, and we weren't. So she's saying that, I guess, in the past, Ozzfest, I think what she did back then was a smart thing because it kept Ozzy's name in the forefront of metal. So if you did Ozzy, you took some of those bigger bands like Pantera or Marilyn Manson or whatever that were big at the time, and you made them the headliners and you had the second stage, you were basically connecting the younger metal fans with an older guy like Ozzy saying he's still the king here, and which I think was smart. Now, she talked about, you know, making a profit. She said we made a profit, but it wasn't like we couldn't retire on it. And managers and agents wanted more and more and more, and it just wasn't cost effective anymore. So that also lets me know, okay, then how's it going to be this time around? Because like you said, if it's going to be the same old where you're just going to have, you know, legacy bands on there, all right, well, it's just another metal, like you said, show or tour. And it's not like it's going to be a traveling tour with as many tour dates as it was back then. You're going to have 2 in England, probably 2 or 3 here in the States, where, like you said, it's just kind of like just another festival, one-day music festival. But like you said, they need to make it affordable for the youngsters, and they do need to put some of these, you know, I don't know how much Jack's into or Sharon's even understanding of who these up-and-coming bands anyway, but they have to make it somewhat like that and not be, like you said, another buy-on festival where it's just, okay, the labels are going, here, here's $100,000, or the management companies are going, here's $50,000. I mean, we've seen, it's not even festivals that do that. I remember a handful of years ago, Limp Bizkit, for instance, I know did a tour, and I would see these names on that. They played at Madison Square Garden. It wasn't a tour. I think they just did a couple of shows.
Was
and
it
you
the
had
one with Corey Feldman?
I think so, yeah. Because
That's
exactly,
awesome, because I would have gone
you know,
just for that. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
but you're right. I mean, if you're just having these bands buy-ons, no, if you want to help bring metal back to the forefront, they've got to do it where, like you said, they got to focus, have a second stage, and be like, here's some newer underground kick-ass bands that you don't know about. But here's my problem, because what she did say is she said that they're gonna not just have metal, they want to include other genres, which they didn't do, which means we're gonna see hip-hop and rap and EDM on there, dude. You know,
watered down bullshit. Hey man, here's the deal. They're not a charity, so I don't know that they give a fuck about. I would love to think that they do, and they want to get all hippy dippy and push metal to the next phase, but there's a damn good chance. Well, what's the point? Is it could be, if you're into that, then that's the point. Like an Elon Musk or people who get off on like creating something and pushing their vision on the world. But if you're if you're in, and if your point is just to be a corporate, just to make money, guess where? Oh, then it follows the algorithm, and everything gets watered down. And then you got your Disney metal bands, and then you got your DEI bands, and you got to put young blood on the stage and all this lame shit. And they say it's for the youth, but it's just because it's like, that's their boys, that's their product, you know. If that's their marketing, you know, that's their Mountain Dew and that's their Mr. Pibb and all this stuff. That's their product, you know. No, who knows? Like, dude, see, that's the thing, is that these people are not really, you know, they're in positions of authority and power. I like to think that they're going to do something for the genre, but they might just shit it out. Like a lot of the legacy bands don't give a fuck about anybody but themselves. If they gave a fuck, they do more. And, but they're not charities. And sometimes they do, and they claim it fails. You know, Metallica did these like Orion festivals. They claim it was a financial disaster. They brought up Battlecross on stage. I was like, oh my God, that band rehearsed right across the hall from Overloaded, across the hall. When I was in Jim Rock, we did the Metal Blade Showcase with them at the Scion Fest at the Glass House. You know, I know those motherfuckers. Like just by proxy, you know what I mean? I was like,
sure.
And they're like, and I thought, dude, that was it. You're the next, you're chosen. You're the next big one, right? So that was really cool. But then they say, oh, it was a disaster. And it's always, you know, we can't do it anymore. But it seemed like they were doing some good things. But then, so who's to say, like, who's in charge? Now they're doing that fucking cash grab at the Sphere, which is just fucking such a disgrace.
That's a whole other thing. I know, man. Exactly.
Right?
Well, again, that's where we're at. You know, like you said, again, no one can afford to go to the Sphere. No one. I mean, so if my thing about this Ozzfest coming back here, well, I mean, again, it's for older people, and that's the problem. What do you mean? Meaning, who can afford it? Meaning, young kids can't afford to see this stuff. And you said, so my question really for Sharon, it's like, okay, I know she talked about she's not the type that likes to sit around and do nothing. Obviously, with Ozzy not around, that was what she did. Everything revolved around him. Now that he's not here, all right, we're going to definitely do another Ozzfest. But is it? Why would she do it other than to make some money? Is it just to keep his name out there? And if so, again, if you're going to wrap this in with which they're going to do, they're going to include rap bands, because listen, that's happened this year to Aftershock. They're doing it now for the first time this year. They're having a night where there's a bunch of hip hop and rap, and this is what's happening. You know, it's really, we're getting to the point where metal now can't stand alone on its own. We saw that happen. I remember there was that festival, the Psycho Vegas one that came out with all those doom and stoner bands.
Oh, that was
and
awesome.
Then all of a sudden but then next thing you know, what did they do the last year? They had a hip hop. They went too far, and that's not going to work, because we all see that and go, get out of here with that crap. I mean, it's
Well, that's the thing, where if they're too far lost and they're so far up the corporate ladder that they don't see anything but the dollar signs, that's when you're going to get all the Disney acts. But like, okay, I thought the thing in Vegas, Psycho Vegas, right, which was also crazy expensive, but was like really cool. I know a lot of people went there. It's not happening anymore, right?
No. Well, again,
But
because this happens all the time. They started out. I mean, it was started out great. He stuck to the, just having those stoner and doom bands for the first few years. Then he got one year. I think he got Megadeth, and he got like Alice Cooper. All right,
I'll
okay,
start
fine, but still, but it
right.
started getting watered down, and then he watered it down by bringing in the rap and hip hop. You can't look. We saw it happen with Coachella when they started, and it ruined it. You've got to just stick it out. You can't sit there. Look, I was even looking at Rocklahoma, I think it was this year, and looking at that. That used to be more about the '80s bands, a lot of hair bands, right? Now you're looking at like a lot of these, like the new metal bands, and it's just you look at the even Aftershock. I'm looking at the days, 3 out of those 4 days. I'm like, there's no way I would pay to go see this. It's junk because you're. I get they've got to. They think by roping in a different audience or spreading the market out and like let's include this genre and this genre is going to sell more. No, it's going to turn away your core fan base. And then you ruin, and that's what happened with Psycho Vegas. They just, again, they saw the dollar signs. They wanted to bring in more, make it bigger and bigger, and whatever it destroyed what it was initially set out to do. What worked because they got greedy, and they always do. So with Ozzfest, I'm just curious to see are they gonna if they bring in the hip hop, it's not gonna do well. It's not gonna do well.
Real quick, I want to say so. Like when you start making deals with the devil, there's things that you need. And then, so like you want to make your festival bigger and bigger. You start working with these people. They got their product and their band. They want their band on that stage. Okay, that's part of the deal. Whether it waters down your festival or not, take it or leave it. You want the bigger stage. You want the nicer sound system or the advertising or whatever they're going after. There's so many angles these motherfuckers know how to work.
I know.
I hope it isn't shit. I guess we'll find out. It's up to them. There are ways that they could flip it around at this point, since all of the legacy acts, like they're riding that out. Maybe now is the time to sign up and coming bands, and now you put the Ozzfest out. And now you can showcase your up and coming. Now you can establish a new product line, right?
I hope so.
With your legacy act names, maybe that's what they're gonna do. But like, see, I'm not part of their club, and like, there are cool things out there. You got Planet Desert Rock, which is fantastic. You got Ripple Fest. You got Hell's Heroes. Those are 3 off the top of my head of things that I think are really cool, and I hope they continue to grow. I don't know the reality because for them too, like if they just lose money, like they can have all the love in the world, it's not going to buy you a cup of coffee, So it's like, I hope they continue to grow, and it's like, is Sharon the enemy? I don't know her, and it's like. But like definitely, she's like way more mainstream. I have a lot of respect for Ozzy. I went to an Ozzfest back in the day. I had a good time. I know that young people love. See, for me, I like to go see fucking 1, 2, or maybe 3 bands. You know what I mean?
Well, that's
right. But that's me. I like to know what I'm getting into. I know who I'm into, and hopefully, I see them at a club. Well,
that's the other point. You just brought up a good point. Look, at this age, man, I'm with you. 3 bands tops, I'm good. These, the thing with these festivals, sure, there's a lot of these bands, look at Aftershock and, look at the number of big artists they have on those days and everything. But for one, it's super, okay, it's expensive, but like you said, we can afford it. Our age group can afford it. Like you said, younger kids can't. These bigger shows, but I don't want to sit there, and I'm not going to. I mean, I did it. I went to Ripple Fest this year, and it was a great time. Great venue, great vibe, everything about it. But it's 4 days. I only went to 2 of them. I can't do 4 days of all day long shows. I mean, I was able to do one night of about 6 to 7 bands, and I did one full day. That was even a lot. I mean, it's just at this age, I'm not, I don't drink like I used to. I have a couple of beers tops. That's it. You're sitting there in the sun, hot. You're old. You got a creaky, tight back, and my legs are buckling. I mean, we're old, so it's like you can't do these all day festivals in the heat like we used to, where it was cool back then. But
it's made for young motherfuckers. Like I don't
get you afford it, and that's the problem. Exactly.
That's a big problem, isn't it? I will say there are some crazy old lifers that like somehow this is their jam, I guess. And they're
I know it is. Yeah.
Like camping to them, and they're all day, all long, and they're like pumped. And I'm like, wow. So that's really cool. Festivals, I don't have to say it's not really my thing anyway, but there are some other ones. I hope cool ones continue to be cooler and don't just fade away. I hope people it doesn't get watered down and all Disneyfied. But like, so shit, I'm getting a little bit lost. Okay, but we're talking about how, yes, it's got to be cheaper, and that's the thing. How do you make anything cheap when everything's so expensive? So like, and then who are you appealing to? You just appealing to like 50 to 70-year-olds? So that seems like a death sentence.
Well,
right?
yeah, that's my thing. Is so Ozzfest coming back. I'm glad that the Ozzy name is still there, and then like I said, she's doing it. So that's great. I'm not expecting much. I'm just expecting, like you mentioned earlier, it's just going to be, I think, like the rest of them, it's going to be, same bands that we see packaged up, and I don't know how. Yeah,
same old. Yeah, it's not like it's super cutting edge or underground or something like that. But it could work, and maybe they're just a lot of these things. I will say they'll try it out. They'll see how it goes and see where it goes from there. Just get one of these off the ground. Like it was cool when it was a touring thing. Maybe like, is it possible to do? I know it's possible actually to do things cheap. That's what's so fucked up. Like you get fucking Metallica and they're doing $5,000 a seat and all this stuff. They're like, this is how it has to be. We can't play unless, because every single person they're working for is like making a fucking corporate career, and it's like, is it possible to do things fucking for a reasonable amount of money when like you got your normal employees nowadays? Like everybody needs to make all their money. Like, well, then the fucking budget's not there. I guess
these are and this is a band like Metallica. It's also not in their prime. So you're paying all this extra money for these guys in the 60s who are half the musicians. A lot of it's like just because of aging, and his voice isn't as what it used to be, and Lars can't keep up, with the speed of the songs and so forth. So again, you're paying tons of this money for what? You know what I mean? It's not even, it's half of the product it used to be too. So cool. I mean,
it's like when people come to town and it's like, yeah, we're going to Disneyland. I'm like, well, that's lame.
I know.
That's fucking like, that's so expensive. And like, yeah, dude, we spent what are they? It could be $1,000 a ticket. It doesn't even matter, It's like,
and you wait an hour and a half on a line for a ride each. You know what I mean? So your whole day is just waiting on lines for that much money. Yeah.
But whatever works, man. Some people, man, it's a sure thing, and if it works for them, that's their fucking crowd, dude. It's stockbrokers. There's people that pay, it's the guys that buy $1 million guitar, that do all those auctions. Like, who the fuck bought a baseball for $1 million? This guy did, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's flying the bands around and all that shit. So I wish you the best of luck. I will say that, young kids and shit, they love to just like wander around. It's like actually like a show isn't even for them. Like, I feel like for younger people, I'm trying to remember back in the day, but it's also just the experience. Like you're in this crazy huge place with thousands of people, and it's super fucking loud, and these larger than life. Like you're seeing a lot of, it's eye opening. It's part of the experience. It's not even about the bands. That's why you can kind of put who the fuck ever on, and it's about the overall experience, dude. Like it's fucking. It's whoever, dude. So there's an argument for that. That's why they kind of go with whatever works, dude. Don't change it. If it ain't broken, don't fix it. If it ain't broken, like same old. It's boring to you and me, and I guess in their eyes it works. But so, hey, I hope it's good. I probably won't go to it. I probably won't be able to afford
it. Well, there you go, right? Bingo. All right, man. And one last thing I want to discuss, which is just real quick. We don't spend too much time on this, but. Now, Acid Band, this has been, I've been, talking about this band for a few years, but there's nothing this year, that tops what I've seen with this in the music business my whole life. I've been in this for 30 years. I've never seen anything like this. So speaking of Ozzfest, one of the bands we maybe could be seeing there is Acid Bath. They've been, like I said, we've had a couple of discussions here on this show I've done about it. As I said, in all my years working in the business, I've never seen a band go from obscurity, 2 albums from years ago, to all of a sudden now they're on a stadium tour with Queens of the Stone Age and System of a Down over in Europe. They're selling, playing these big shows here in the States with opening, having bands like High on Fire, who's won a Grammy, opened for them and so forth.
I saw that show.
Yeah. Now, there's I have, we were talking a little bit about CIA before with about Billy Corrigan. There's something up to me with this. I don't think that this just happened organically. There's no way it could have. I did some delving into it. They do work for there's not work for, but their management company is a company called 33rd and West, which is based out of LA. Very invested and very big players in the Hollywood scene, not just with music, but also with film. I think one or two of the guys used to work at the Creative Arts Agency, CAA, which is the biggest, pretty much entertainment agency in the world, pretty much. When we talk about stuff like society stuff, people, of course, you see that big 33 in there. Well, what's that doing? Is that on the street? No, we all know 33, how that's connected to certain things. I won't go too deep in that rabbit hole. But you look at Creative Arts Agency, you get a bird's view of their headquarters, and you got a nice big Freemason symbol there as well. There's some things that people are talking. How did this band come from obscurity to all of a sudden open up for? I mean, nothing. I know they've gotten they've definitely gained, of course, a bit of a cult following over the years through YouTube and so forth. But because for a while, longest time, you couldn't even get their music on Spotify. I think it is now. Their label Rotten Records was holding it forever. You got Sammy Dewey from Goat Whore. He's a big avowed Satanist, and Church of Satan thing. So there's a lot of conspiracy theories on how this band just blew up all of a sudden. Like I said, I knew him back in the day, and I know you've seen him recently. I think you said something to me, I think in the past, about you even saw them, I think years ago in Atlanta or something, in a small club where they, there's nobody seeing them. First of all, I want to know hype or legitimacy with their live show. You saw them live, so talk about what you thought of their live show. Let's start with that.
Shockingly legit. I couldn't believe it. So where to even start with it? But we'll start with the show, because High on Fire was right before them. And when Acid Bath's name first came out on the Vegas thing. What's the Vegas festival? Sick New World?
Oh, yeah, Sick New World. That's when it first started. Yes, exactly. Mm-hmm.
So I was a fan of theirs from back in the day, and I was like, oh my God. But it did make sense because Sammy has been around. Goat Whore is a well-established metal band. Dax kept his career up, right? What I didn't know about was Mike. And then I believe Jimmy was their drummer, right? And then their bass player passed away. It makes sense that you can put bands back together. I'm like, wow, holy shit. Because I always thought of Sick New World as new metal. So that's like not even their genre whatsoever. It's not like they came back for like they were kind of in between genres, but like Hell's Heroes. But see, they're not traditional metal. Like, where do they even fit in? But anyway, so just hearing their name, like, oh my God, I'm not going to go to this festival, but they're playing it. Isn't that cool? Right? But then that like shit the bed or something, the festival itself. Then I saw one-off shows, and I was like, wow, that's really cool. It makes sense that they got back together for this show. And they're like, well, they put the band back together, so you got to at least do something with it. So they do a hometown show, right? That's super cool. That sells out instantly. According from what I saw, I wasn't going to go to that. I'm not going flying to fucking Vegas. It would have been cool. Not happening. Well, I live in Hollywood, and I saw that they're playing the Palladium. I can walk to the fucking Palladium. I'm like, no fucking way. And I was just getting this vibe. People were talking about it all of a sudden. People were like, I didn't know, and I've heard all of your podcasts about them. They were a small band that no one had heard of. No one had seen. They toured with bands that were way heavier than them. Like they opened for I saw them with DRI. They are not a hardcore punk band.
No.
They toured with a lot of like death metal bands. They're not death metal. Obviously, Sammy was very into that. He went on the Goat Whore, but then Dax is like super Mr. Indie Rock, So anyway, but then they had a tragedy, and then the band basically fell apart. When they were touring, and I saw them on their own. I saw them in Atlanta at the Somber Reptile on their own, like fucking 12 people, maybe. They played split,
and that was in the South too, where that was their stronghold, supposedly, their fan base.
But I did see them in Florida a couple of times. They played this club called Mescalitos. I was there on like spring break, and they happened to be
Okay.
playing there, and it was like a fucking it was a cool bar. It's a place that I'd fucking be lucky to play at now, but it wasn't like a fucking theater or something. They played there. They were playing there that weekend. Like, oh my God, I can't believe this, very like stars align type thing. But it made sense because they're from New Orleans. It's probably a couple hours from there. But like not many people had heard of that band. They went away. And but they were making a mark though. Like at the same time, they were on the up and coming. Like maybe if they had continued with their trajectory, maybe they would have been more bigger and bigger and bigger. They were in an odd spot, dude. At the time, metal was out of fashion, but death metal was coming up. This was like the mid 90s. Pantera was huge. And then the next big thing was fucking like new metal started coming in, and all the group metal, they called it, and shit like that. So like, where would they even fit in? But I'll tell you this, like, I loved when Dax is one of the greatest singers out there. He was then, and
great vocalist.
He's but not just great. I think he's one of the best, and he has a vibe. He's like, when I saw him at the Palladium, he has to me, it's David Bowie, even though he's not animated. He's very, I don't know, like he's just like timid, I guess, on stage, but it works for his vibe. He used to do this fucking masturbation thing, which is like, he kind of played this I'm sick in the head thing. That was like way back in the 90s, which I don't think he was doing that this time. Well, anyway, dude, all right, so that's Acid Bath. Probably everyone's like, get to the point. Well, they had High on Fire right before him, which makes sense. I couldn't believe it. High on Fire was opening for them, but you know what? Money talks. So if whoever the fucking Illuminati that is like in charge of them now, fucking has the pockets, and like, dude, we're gonna pay you this amount of money, yes or no? Yes, right? And it's a gig, right? And I thought everyone was gonna leave. Like the Palladium I think it's huge. Like, I mean, to me, it's like 4,000 people or something. To me, that's a huge fuck. I thought they played like the Whiskey or something. And and then I thought that everyone, dude, watch this. Like, is anyone even going to be around for Acid Bath? Right? Who the fuck knows? No one. Anytime I bring up their name, no one knows who the fuck they are. What I'm even talking about, right? Including metal guys I've been in bands with. Okay, I put them on the radio, and like, oh yeah, oh wait, I heard of this band, and they've never heard the songs ever. Sure. So like, it came time for Acid Bath. I was like on the floor, and I determined. First of all, I was shocked. There's so many young people. I couldn't fucking believe it. Acid Bath came out, and people were freaking out like it was the fucking Beatles or something. I was like, I was fighting. I'm not gonna say kind of for my life, because like I don't even fuck with this shit. Like any band I see, I don't care to get to the front. I'm not gonna fight for the front. Suck my dick. I'll stand more back. I'll stand like in the middle. You know what I mean? Oh, I'm just there to stand there and enjoy the show and bop my head, because that's just my jam. And I actually was like, fuck it, I'm going up front. And I was like pulling into that thing where people are pulling you back, and people are stage diving, and I've got to like fucking protect my fucking head from getting hit by goddamn combat boots like the olden days. And I couldn't, and they knew the songs. I'm like, did they hire? Where did these people come from? Who are these people? Who the fuck? Where do you live? I was fucking shocked, dude. I couldn't believe it. So it's like, whoever is behind this fucking hit the jackpot. Now, I want to say one thing about it. They're a great band, and I think they're way better than almost everybody right now. They're on point. They're as good as they were. They still look the same. You know, like, to go back, rewind, right? Acid Bath is better than Goat Whore. Okay? Goat Whore is great.
That I believe. Yeah, I believe that for sure.
And they're cool, and they're fucking solid. Okay? They're good. Acid Bath is better. Whatever Dax went off and did, it was all indie rock. It looked like fucking, it was like a two-man band. And a chick looked like White Stripes. I didn't even check it out. And for 1 second, they did a band called Agents of Oblivion with Mike. I don't know, that shit the bed out for a fucking tour or something. But like, Acid Bath was solid. Acid Bath does have good songs. Diverse songs that actually make more sense now, stylistically, now that like death metal is essentially, extreme metal is essentially mainstream. You know, like having death metal in a melodic song is like it's been it's old hat for 20 years. And they have fucking ballads, they have fucking heavy songs, and they can still deliver.
They're all over the place. Yeah.
They got a drummer. Now, when I went to like this after party at Knuckleheads, and I was talking to Mike, and he said the drummer's still strung out. He couldn't get it together. Like they were a fucking junky, like underground hard drugs band. That was their vibe. That was their scene.
Yeah.
They lived it. You know, I think they were pretty. I mean, it was like part of the underground always was like actual hard drugs. You know, fucking
of course.
Hard,
oh yeah, big time.
You know, and like that leads to and so. But they got the drummer for fucking Goat Whore, who's like a goddamn Olympic athlete. So that's so like they're as good as they ever were. They look exactly the same. You know, they weren't like some glam metal band that had to look like Winger or something. They look exactly the fucking same. And yeah, man. So it's legit. And God, I mean, someone had it's very out of the box, you know. It's for once it's like actually doing something like you remember that band Acid Bad? That's so fucking good. Are they still kind of around? Everybody's still around except for so and so. You know, they got the bass player. I think he was in Crowbar. That's what I kind of recognize. I don't even know what the fuck, man, but I think I recognize him. I thought he played for Crowbar back in the day, and like because Iron Out opened for him like on that tour. I don't even know what album it was. But not on that tour, on that show. That's how I got to recognize him. And then you got these pro musicians. They're fucking pulling off the music, and somehow everyone knows it. I asked the tour manager, who was the same tour manager as back in when I was in White Wizard, and then when I did was in Gypsy Hawk on the Ailstorm tour. Right? He does like, you know, it's a small world, dude. He does these metal tours, right? And he happened to be the tour manager. He was there, and I was like, how the fuck did this happen? Now the story goes, what I'm being told, you know, legend has it, you know, is that some of their songs took off on TikTok. All of the younger gothy alternative kids.
I heard that too.
And it was that simple. They marketed them. They were like, you know, just obscure enough, but like their shit is not that like, it's pretty main. As far as I'm concerned, it's mainstream, you know? So
well, it is. Yeah. It's, it's got like an alternative undertone to it. And like you said, I heard the same thing. There's something about TikTok. But what's interesting is when I first found out, this is a few months ago, that they were on this tour, stadium tour with Queens of the Stone Age and System of a Down. We're talking about two bands that were staples on MTV. Yeah, two rock bands in the last 25 years, right? Yeah, that have been radio friendly.
That's hitting the yeah, like you said, this is like never, ever been done.
It's never happened before.
Things that can are kind of similar, like Pentagram. Remember the Pentagram madness? Like they were a dysfunctional band. They had the movie. Then they're doing tours. Not that big, but it was like kind of like from you had to be. They were so underground. No one knew who they really were.
But yeah, no, I mean, listen, but that I can understand. But because that was just Pentagram, you know, when Stoner and Doom kind of was taken off there about 10, 15 years ago. Yeah, it was this renewed thing, and people don't even know about that scene for a while. But the difference is this: Pentagram, you didn't see opening, stadium tours for System of a Down and Queens of the Stone Age. That's the difference. I can understand. Like I can understand it if this, you know, like I did it. You know, when me and Chris talked about this a couple of weeks ago. I was saying, I remember during the pandemic there was this thing with Mr. Bungle. You know, they did a reunion, and they had like Scotty and Dave Lombardo in the band, and they were playing, you know, their old, like their demo that they came out with. They redid it, and they turned more like metal, because that was more of a metallic record, their demo, than it was their first album. So there was, it was the same kind of thing. You had these shows popping up in LA and New York and certain places that were selling out. You had a lot of people from overseas flying to see these shows, which could have been why there was a lot of people you know, from Europe that might have came over to LA to see these shows too. So it kind of reminded me a little bit of that, which I could see, and that was just a short-lived they didn't see Mr. Bungle go out there and touring with these big radio rock bands. Yeah. And like you said, it's just, and like you said, I mean, everybody, including the band themselves, said that, yeah, we used to, you know, we had a good following in New Orleans and certain parts of the South, but we'd go to New York and have 10 people there. And it's amazing because a lot of these younger fans that are a fan of them now, this new generation, they're like, you know, making all these comments of why I'm so perplexed as how this band got to this level overnight when they've only got two albums that came out well over 25 years ago. barely did anything. They're on a small little label. To go from that overnight to playing these stadium, shows. I'm sorry, it's got to be. I'm sorry, but it's got to be people behind the scenes, pulling the levers, the Illuminati, whatever you want to call it, they're involved and invested in this. I don't. Why did they choose Acid Bath? But they got to be. There's no other way.
Because they're that good. They're perfect, and I bet it's all boxed up and ready to go. It was that fucking easy to put it together. The material's there. I hope that they write a new record before everything falls apart, Well,
I don't think they're gonna. That's the problem. It looks like this is because, it's people are saying they don't think it's gonna happen. I don't see how you can't do it after the success of this. It's like, why wouldn't you do it? I mean, there's got to be. I mean, why would he continue with Goldhorn at this point? Put down the back burner. You got to ride this wave while it lasts, because it won't last too long. You gotta strike while it's hot, but it's just I've just never seen anything like it, and it's still amazing. Yeah.
I think Acid Bath is a better band than Pentagram. Acid Bath is a better band than Anvil. Anvil was another one that had a spark.
Yeah.
They couldn't back it up with the music.
No, because their music isn't there. Yeah, I agree.
And I think that Acid Bath, and they can really do it, dude. Because and then also like. They fit into, like, I'm looking at Queens of the Stone Age, which is kind of like heavier Foo Fighters. You know what I mean? Like they're not like super
they're poppy, very pop, hard rock.
Band. Yeah. System of a Down is a mainstream, but they're new metal. But like they get legit heavy at times. Like
sure.
I would say, look, put Goatcore on that bill. Doesn't fucking work. And then,
no, of course not.
And then Dax Riggs' solo stuff. Actually, I haven't heard of it. Let's say it's just indie rock. Ain't gonna work.
Avant-garde indie ain't gonna work. Yeah.
And so it's actually a new band, even though it's not, because the music's been around forever. But instead of having the same old, it fits. Like, what other band would you have open for those guys? It's probably. For them to do it, for it to make sense, and all the numbers to line up, it's probably another band that we've seen 1,000 fucking times. And dude, like maybe they're really cheap. Maybe the other bands like Mr. Bungle will cost like $1 million, and
I just think they're getting pushed. I just think their management's like, we are pushing this band, whatever it is that they're behind them, and like we're gonna get them on this tour because they've never toured Europe, so that could be a thing too. But with this new, Yeah. So it's just, I mean, it's definitely just the question of the years. Like, what is this about? Right. It's insane.
But I think it really is. The stars did align. I think it's like very lucky. It's very lucky that it could even happen. And someone realized, like, dude, this band, like, we could put them back together. They're so good. And they're like, there's a use for them. Like they're fucking, like, people are digging, like, people will dig this now. This is why can't, like, all the new bands suck. Why can't they be like this back when music was written? That band's still around. And like, we could actually, with some help, with some support, with a reason, like, they're not going to get in that. They used to have this beat down, like, school bus that was just like every DIY punk rock style band, and they'd fucking spend all their money on gas and drugs and fucking play the show, and it was done and over, and they come back broke. You know what I'm saying? Like, everyone can't do that now. How much would it cost to put this band on the road? How much would it cost to make this, like, feasible? And they crunch the numbers, and these geniuses do it. Like, there are some companies that aren't just so, like, stuck in the past of what works. Like, someone was innovative enough to see the value in them, I guess, and then made this work. Yeah, because like, it's not like they just fucking picked up the phone and was like, hey, can you book my band?
Yeah, of course not. Exactly. They haven't played in years, Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. Good bands can try so hard for just that's hitting their head against the brick wall, and then that's it. It just never goes anywhere. And I'm happy for them, but at some point, though, it will get old, though. Like, what are you just going to play just like your old songs? At that point, then I seen you once. Fucking good on y'all. But I'm checking out. Like, I hope they can write a new song. I don't know. Most people just can't write. I just fucking know bands can't do it. You put them in the room, they can't do it to save their life, I don't know why. Because then bands that do write good songs and no one listens to those songs, but they have an opportunity. If they wrote a killer record, it could go. It'll be the album of the year potentially, But whatever's going to happen, I think they're still. And when I was hanging out, because like Mike was like, I ran into Sammy years and years ago, just like because we did this thing at South by Southwest. that we were on the same bill. That was cool. And I saw him for the first time, like, oh my God, he was just at the back of the club with his amp, like carting in a cabinet or something, you know? But that was cool. Never ran into Dax, and he wasn't there. I run into the drummer of Goat Whore, but that was for Goat Whore, you know? But I ran into Mike, and I was the most curious about, because he's been out of the limelight. You know, what the fuck?
Sure.
And he's just like happier than fuck.
Well, come on, of course.
Of course. And but also it's almost like, I mean, he was kind of, I was really like just kind of hanging. He was like cool to hang with. Like, you know, like most, he's like, is this a dream type thing? And he was like, just so, he was still like, I know what, like someone put this together, because he's like, I can't fucking believe this happened. This is fucking crazy. You know, he's like, so it's really cool that happened. And, you know, so that's my take on it. I was shocked because I thought like this was some stunt. I didn't think that everyone was gonna like how this is some pay to play, buying views. Yeah, it's sold out, you know, quote unquote. They're buying all the fucking tickets and giving them out for like, you know, on Craigslist to people, you know, filling it in with extras or something. I'm like, how can you, you know? But then they came out, all they did is play their songs. You could even see that like they were like not like they're playing a huge stage that they have never played in a arena. Like it's like an arena. Once you get that big, like what's the difference between that and fucking anything else, you know? And they're just like, you could see in their eyes, they're kind of like pulling it off. They're just playing their tunes, kind of like, how the fuck, you know?
That's crazy, man.
It
Crazy
is.
stuff, man. It's definitely the story of the year, and yeah, we'll find out if they're gonna, you know, if they're gonna make new music or not. But yeah, Acid-Bath, it's never seen anything like it. I guess I keep saying it, but
I know it's pissed a lot of people off though, because there's a lot of people that like, you know, that are, you know, around Gen Xers who have been just fucking holding on for that fucking that opportunity, that life raft to come their way, and it went to them.
well, they're jealous. They're envious, is what it is. They're envious of
very much so.
Can't blame them. I know. Yeah,
you know, yeah, they're killing it, man, and it's I think it's fucking awesome. I was stoked.